There are two reasons why Muslims don't have to change their beliefs to fit Darwinian evolution. Number one, science does not lead to certainty. And number two, Darwin's theory of evolution is not indisputable.
Well, that first one's kind of vague because science definitely gives us sufficient evidence to be reasonably certain about our conclusions. But I'm guessing he means 100% absolutely certain. And the scientific theory of evolution by natural selection is indisputable. It has so much evidence behind it that it's literally a fact at this point. And I'm not exactly sure what he really means by Darwinian evolution, other than what most creationists call macro evolution. Well, if y'all want to fuck around and find out what Islam's best answer is for evolution, then please stay tuned. What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? I'm the Godless Engineer, and I critically analyze apologist claims to give you the best arguments and information so that you can stand up and use your voice. Today, we're going to be taking a look at an Islamic animated video on why evolution is wrong, or I guess the way that he introduced it, why Darwinism is wrong. I'm sure that they only have the best counter evidence in the form of scientific experiments or scientific studies that shows that evolution by natural selection is a far worse explanation for the diversity of life than God did it, or well, in this case, Allah did it! Alright, let's see what he's got.
So Darwinian evolution can be accepted by Muslims as a valid theory, but not something absolutely true. The first thing we need to do is make a distinction between basic evolution and Darwin's theory of evolution. Basic evolution is biological change over time. Darwinian evolution is composed of two parts. Number one, the tree of life, and number two, natural selection.
Evolution is evolution. The arbitrary distinctions that apologists create in order to circumvent evolution are just laughable. Separating the concept of evolution into basic and Darwinian doesn't make a lick of sense. Stacking small adaptations over long periods of time equates to big changes. I always like to think of it as a grocery store trip. But you can only get small items, and if you get enough small items and stay in the store for a long enough period of time, you end up going from a small grocery store trip to a big grocery store trip. This is similar to how adaptation in evolution works, because small changes over long periods of time end up with big changes to that organism. Also, how is Darwinian evolution comprised of only those two things? Of course, I'm working off of the assumption here that Darwinian evolution is just evolution by natural selection that ends up creating morphologically different species of organisms. He's neglecting the fact that there are a lot of moving parts in evolution. This would include the genetics of the organism, the environment in which the organism lives in, and all of the mechanisms which facilitate those factors. The tree of life is a conclusion that's derived from biological evolution. Natural selection is a mechanism within evolutionary theory that explains why certain mutations or adaptations allow an organism to survive better in their environment. But it is only a single aspect of evolutionary theory. Genetics and environmental factors are also very important.
The basic type of evolution is simply true. It happens all around us. Take butterflies or bacteria evolving resistance to medicine, and numerous other examples. No one disagrees with this type of biological evolution.
Oh, well, good, because evolution is evolution, whether it's in the form of adaptation or whole-ass morphological changes. They are all forms of evolution. Accepting one form of evolution means that you accept all forms of evolution. But again, these are arbitrary distinctions that don't really have a lot of use in the scientific study of evolution, but they are created by apologists in order to circumvent the uncomfortable idea that God didn't create everything. Of course, I don't think that evolution should have any kind of bearing on whether or not you believe in God. It really only affects creationists who hold on to these antiquated beliefs in a creationist type of God.
But get this, this was well known before Darwin. Yes, before Darwin. It's the second type which is problematic, which requires more evidence for the tree of life and natural selection other than mere observations. But sadly, people confuse the two types together and assume proof for the former is proof for the latter.
Well, since it's all evolution, proof of evolution is proof of evolution. There's no confusion being had on our end. All of the confusion lies on his end. He simply doesn't want, for whatever reason, for this macro evolution to be true. The simple fact is that if you follow the consequences of these small adaptations in a group of organisms over millions of years, you end up with the tree of life. Put simply, the tree of life is just a conclusion of evolutionary biology that's supported by the small adaptations in a group of organisms that allow them to survive in their environment. He just baselessly asserts that the tree of life has no evidence to support it, but the fossil record and genetics are the evidence. Of course, if he were to acknowledge any of these things, it would definitely fuck with his creationism idea.
And this is not to mention some of the problems with regards to Darwinian evolution. Number one, no matter how successful a scientific theory is, it can always be changed and challenged due to new observations and interpretations. Philosophy of science teaches us that there is no absolute concrete proof for any scientific theory.
This section highlights the incessant need of creationists of whatever religion to have 100% absolute certainty for any natural phenomena. It's a virtue of science that previous ideas can change with new information. That's how our understanding of reality has always operated. It's only a problem when it starts fucking with their creationist God. Then, like a 5-year-old child, it all of a sudden becomes a problem that we aren't 100% absolutely certain about anything in this universe. They claim that their holy book gives them 100% absolute certainty about reality, but does it really? What I see when I look at these holy books are fallible creations of man that are wrong about a lot of things. Did you know that the Quran says that stars are actually lamps? And that some of these lamps are actually missiles that have a heat signature lock on devils in the sky. The Quran also says that the earth is fixed and doesn't move. And the Quran reinforces its geocentric stance by stating that the sun orbits around the earth. I don't see 100% certainty in the Quran. The Quran is a product of dumb fucks that had a lot of archaic ideas about reality and then learned to read and write. So yes, a scientific view of reality changes with new information. Fuck us, right?
Number two, the tree of life is based on the idea of homology, which is the assumption that two species with similar genes and anatomy have evolved from a common ancestor. Left as it is, it's just an assumption, not a conclusion based on evidence. Yet, there is a problem: homeoplasy. Homeoplasy is the observation of similarities which cannot be due to common ancestry.
You see, this is another problem I see with creationists. They are always all or nothing. I'm guessing that it's because they interpret their holy book that way. It's either all true or none of it's true, which of course is a false dichotomy. Homoplasy and homology are situations that arise in life that we find on Earth. Organisms with homologous structures could be related, but if these structures are the product of convergent evolution, then we should find other anatomical differences. He's myopically considering one anatomical feature and disregarding all the others. You simply cannot do that when you're trying to identify the evolutionary lineage of an organism. Homology, homoplasy, and convergent evolution all work together in order to explain the tree of life. So they cannot be a problem for the tree of life or biological evolution.
Number three, gradualism. Darwin assumed evolution takes place in small, slight steps. This assumption is an essential part of Darwin's theory. In fact, he actually said that this is like a falsification condition to his entire framework. But the fossil record shows the exact opposite. Rapid changes in biological features also.
Well, rapid evolution still takes millions of years. The Cambrian explosion, for example, took about 13 to 25 million years. But more importantly, the changes that occurred during that explosion would have happened gradually. And we know that because that's how genetics and biological evolution works now. There's no reason to think that the process would have changed. I do agree that if you could find some organism that has literally no connection to any other organism anywhere, then that would be a good candidate to falsify evolution. No creature like that has been found though, and if you do find it, then I'm sure you'll win a Nobel Prize. So it's kind of a put up or shut up situation.
Number 4, selfishness. Darwinism assumes that the only reason for our existence is to selfishly care for our own survival and reproduction. But it doesn't explain why many people give charity anonymously, why governments collect taxes for hospitals to help survival of the unfittest, why people care about animals, ancient buildings, and are willing to die for their values and ideals.
Weird, because biological evolution isn't meant to explain any of those things. This point is just a red herring. Biological evolution helps explain how a group of organisms change in order to survive better in their environment, not why people are charitable or preserve old buildings. And biological evolution doesn't say anything about the reason for our existence. That's a completely separate topic from the diversity of life.
Number 5. Some notable biologists and philosophers have pointed out that there is propaganda about Darwinism, and they see it being pushed as an undeniable reality when it is far from it. In fact, some have even labeled Darwinism as a religion due to the activities of Darwinists.
Okay, so what in the fuck does this have to do with the truth of evolution? It just seems like a poor attempt to place biological evolution on a religious playing field. It's not a religion. It cannot be a religion by itself. I mean, sure, somebody could make up a religion where they venerate Darwin and they practice Darwinistic ideas or something like that, but that doesn't affect the truth of biological evolution. Also, the fact of evolution is undeniable at this point. We have mountains of evidence for biological evolution, and all you have are shitty-ass statements misrepresenting biological evolution and calling it a religion. It's fucking pathetic.
In addition to this, Darwinism isn't even the only theory of evolution. In fact, let me just give you 3 alternatives. Number 1, evolution by natural genetic engineering. Number 2, neo-Lamarckian evolution. And number 3, mutation-driven evolution.
Essentially, this is another attempt to needlessly divide evolution. It's a straw man argument. Evolution by genetic engineering is still evolution using the mechanisms of evolution. Neo-Lamarckism is derived from Lamarckism, which is basically this idea that the more that some feature on an animal or organism is used, the more evolved that feature becomes. Like the neck of a giraffe getting longer. Neo-Lamarckism would say that the giraffe's neck got longer because it continuously used it to reach those high leaves, and it eventually just started getting longer because that's what they were using their necks for. This is an antiquated idea of how evolution operates and has recently been shown new interest because of our research into epigenetics. Regardless of all that though, evolution is evolution. Even if neo-Lamarckism was the way in which organisms evolved over time, there's still the fact that organisms evolved over time. This is an ad hoc attempt to cast doubt on evolutionary theory, and it's pathetic.
What was the point of all this, I'm not trying to tell you that this theory is invalid. It's still the main scientific theory to explain biological change, and also the majority of biologists also subscribe to it. Mentioning the disagreements above is done only to show that Darwinism is not an eternal truth set in stone as some may have us believe. So how can this be reason enough to make Muslims change their beliefs about the Creator and the Quran's view of the creation of mankind?
Well, I don't think that evolution should change your mind about God. The question of God really doesn't concern biological evolution. As far as the creationist parts of the Quran, you may want to refactor your thoughts on them. Plenty of theists out there accept evolution for the fact that it is, and they can do that because they think that, well, evolution happened, it's just that God is guiding. To me, that just kind of seems like you're shifting the goalpost, but really it's just their way of resolving that cognitive dissonance that comes up when they realize that God didn't create everything on this earth as it exists today. This video has presented no good evidence to doubt the scientific theory of evolution. They have presented no evidence that suggests that the Quran provides a better explanation for the diversity of life on this earth. This video was meant to reinforce the Islamic belief in a creator God by strawmanning evolution and making it look ridiculous. I'm happy to say they have failed. But in any case, that's going to be our video for today. If you will, let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. I'd love to know your thoughts on his video. And hey, while you're down there, why don't you smash that like button and subscribe if you like this kind of evolutionary content. Don't forget to stand up and use your voice. Bye, heathens!